Intuition is such a powerful thing. It's defined as the ability to understand something without conscious reason. I've always been a firm believer that there are people in our lives, whether it's close friends, relatives, girlfriend, fiance, wife, that are so intuitively connected with one another that, for instance, you can finish each other's sentences, you almost know what each other's thinking. But taken it to a whole other level, you ever been having a family member that's out and you're sitting down and relaxing, and maybe a family member gets into a car accident or something extreme happens, but for some reason you intuitively know this, like, oh man, I need to check on somebody to see how they're doing, and then upon calling them, you discover that they were in a car accident or something of that nature. That's why I've always thought intuition and people who are spiritually and emotionally attached to a sense to where they're intuitive to one another. But I got a story that I want to share of something that happened years ago and made a lot of sense when I discovered what happened to a close friend. I just thought it was extremely unique, but at the same time sad. Some people might be skeptical about the situation, but I've always learned in life to keep an open mind and a strong perception about the world around you, because you never truly know what the human mind is capable of doing. So after joining the United States Navy at age 18 in 1998, I did my first tour, my first 5 years on board the USS Thomas S. Gates CG-51, located in good old Pascagoula, Mississippi. I met a young friend who was an engineer called a GSE, gas turbine engineer, or something to that nature. His name was Chris Savine, an awesome friend. But how we met and how we built up a strong bond and relationship, I started training in martial arts since the age 4, and so did he. But Chris and I, he was a Kaju Kempo black belt. At the time, I was a black belt at Taekwondo. But Chris and I became the bestest of friends all throughout the beginning of our career. Had some little fights, but I remember 9/11 came around. That kind of bonded us and helped us to understand that fighting was never a good thing. It was a waste of time. We were fighting over a girl. But, throughout our career, after the 5 years, he went his way, I went mine, went different duty stations. I did a deployment to the sandbox, which is Iraq. He also did one in his own time. And I don't know what he encountered out there, but he came back to an extreme level of PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. I remember he met Master Sergeant Gunnery Hartman. He was the guy that was on Full Metal Jacket, the drill instructor. But as Chris got out of the Navy, he got into some trouble or made some poor decisions. And I don't know the ins and outs and the details of his case. But what makes things crazy is that I don't know what happened to him after that. August 18th was a very important day of my life, because this was the day that it was the grand opening of my brand new gym, so I will never forget that date. August 18th, 2016. So I remember laying down and sleeping one time, and going back to thinking about intuition and being highly intuitive with certain individuals. And Chris, we were pretty close, like brothers. I mean, damn, we've been through so much. We've been through war together, been through 9/11 and other obstacles and circumstances, and we never quit on one another. But I remember sleeping, and clear as day, I heard my name shouted, Phil, in Chris's voice. Super loud. I was startled, because I'm a very light sleeper, and I was one of those guys for a while. And when I got out of the military, I slept with one eye open. And sure enough, that was Chris's voice. Perfectly identifiable. I was startled when I woke up and was just concerned. And I'll never forget that. Pandemic rolls around in 2010. I decided to check up on every single one of my close friends. I combed the internet for some of them, especially Chris. Came across his Facebook page. I noticed he hasn't been active for several years. And I started to see messages such as happy birthday, happy birthday, brother. I miss you. Happy birthday. In heaven. So after looking into this, Chris died. But looking deeper into this, he went through a tough circumstance with some sort of case he was going through, a criminal case. I don't know. I don't care. I don't judge. Because every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. But the day he put a gun to his head and took his life was August 18th, 2016. As weird as it sounds, I'm a firm believer that he was reaching out to me to say goodbye or something, because that was perfectly clear. I can't fathom. You could think I'm crazy or have a skeptical mindset about it, but I don't care. I call it how it is. And I was skeptical too. So I've always been a firm believer that there are people in life, friends, family, close relatives, and loved ones, and maybe your wife. You can be so intuitive to the point that you can hear each other's heart echo. You can feel each other's thoughts and emotions, because intuition is a method and way that the heart and soul whisper. And you can whisper to each other in such a way that you can pass in communications through thoughts, feelings, love, and emotion. So that's my story. This was a picture I took of Chris many, many years ago. We're actually visiting Helsinki, Finland on a European tour cruise with the USS Thomas S. Gates on a type of deployment where we worked with the entire North Atlantic fleet. So we had a pretty good time visiting these different places. At the time, we would meet different girls. We were young, different port visits, learned a lot. The beauty about that is you're just going around meeting people, dating, having fun as a young kid. This ultimately teaches your heart what kind of woman you want to spend the rest of your life with. Because there's a lot of different personalities, a lot of different, types of women, different things. That's a different subject. But at the end of the day, my journey led me to my current fiance, which has been the perfect relationship. And I can honestly say that. Expressing the most purest unconditional love, because I'm not perfect. And unconditional love is when you love somebody, not because they're perfect. They've learned to love an imperfect person perfectly. And that to me is a definition of unconditional love. I've always loved my friend/brother, Chris Savine. He will always be in my heart. And I know that was him reaching down to me from heaven to say his goodbye. God bless you guys. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Always pray daily. Honor the Lord. Keep him in close proximity to your heart, because where God ordains, he sustains. Hoorah.